Welcome to Zombie Thanksgiving Lesson 3. In this video, we're going to learn how to use the mouse and how to move a sprite to a location, specifically that of the mouse. So let's get to it. So let's review where we are in the game. So we currently have the zombie and the turkey moving around by using the set vector and the move methods of a sprite. We also realized that in order to keep the sprites on the screen as they move, we pass the argument of true to the move method. So looking at the crosshair, it doesn't make sense for us to give it a set vector and a move because it's not meant to move on its own. It's meant to be moved with the mouse. So let's go back to our main program and let's do this. I'm simply going to do a console log of mouse. If you recall, mouse is one of those objects available in the game alongside of key. It's a simpler object in that it's not a class, it's just a JSON, but it is still an object that has quite a few variables in their properties available to us, such as X, Y, left button, right button, left click, right click. And again, but we're going to explore those in future lessons. So let's go back to our example here. I'm going to do F12 to bring up the developers tool. And what you can see here, if you recall, we were doing a console log of mouse. And if you're not familiar, console log simply just prints stuff out to the console. And that's where I'm opened up on the tab, the console. So you can see we can track the mouse position. As you can see on the console, it's constantly moving. Right? So what can we do with that? Because honestly, it's not about printing the mouse's values to the screen, to the console. It's about being able to move the crosshair. So if we go back to the game library and we go down to the sprite class. Let's close up the constructor, close up the draw, close up the set vector, close up the move, change X, change Y, speed delta. Some of these functions you won't need to worry about, though you can access them because they're public. Again, these are meant to be used in conjunction with the move and some of the other methods. But the one we're looking at is here, the move to. So the move to, as you can see from the parameters, accepts an X and a Y. It will actually move something to a location. These are not optional requirements, optional parameters. You must specify an X and a Y when you move something to a location. The other thing you might notice that when you move something to a location, it also draws. So there's no reason for you to also draw afterwards, which is a common mistake, and it also sometimes creates a kind of shadow effect. So instead of doing a draw, we're going to do a move to. Now, beginner programmers that start using the game library might be tempted to do this, crosshair move to mouse. It reads well, it makes sense. But if you remember, the move to needs an X and a Y. And the way I'm going to phrase it hopefully will help you remember in the future. So it wants to move to an X and a Y. Who's X and who's Y? Well, the mouse is X and the mouse is Y. Well, guess what? Mouse being an object has, as we saw, an X variable, an X property. So I can do mouse.x and mouse.y. Very similar to the way we use scale. I don't believe I showed you in the game library where the scale is, but scale is a property. So this is the scale of the crosshair. This is the X of the mouse. Right? So let's take a look at our game again. And there you go. So now you can see that the crosshair moves to wherever the mouse goes because we're using the same X and Y as the mouse. Right, so let's go back to our presentation. So in this lesson, we saw how we can use the mouse to move a sprite, but then we also explored that the mouse has other properties available to us that we will use in future games. A sprite's move to method requires an X and a Y. Give it an X and a Y, and it'll move the sprite to that location. Enjoy.